Okay, it's time to get started. I'll call this regularly scheduled meeting of the Lawton City Council to order. Please stand for the invocation by Pastor Terry Marsh of the Carriage Hills Christian Church and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor?
Let's pray. Father, we have chosen this time of year to celebrate the birth of your son, Jesus. And all of the beauties that surrounds it does not portray the difficulty of the times in which he was born, and that was by your choice. He lived through those times and later was crucified, and again, for those of us who believe in him, he's asked us to take our cross. I pray that for each one of us here and those who live in this city and the surrounding area, that we'll continue to do that and in that way honor him. We pray for the men and women tonight who this afternoon, will make these decisions, make their presentations, that you would be guiding all of it so that it would make for a better community and also make a better path for those of us who in some way or another want to do our best to follow and serve you. So we thank you and praise you for this day, for this time of year, and especially for your son Jesus, in whose name we pray.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Pastor Terry Marsh, also known as Pastor Corvette. And please call the roll.
Hankins. Harris. Chapman. Burke. Hampton. Fortenbaugh. Johnson. Warren.
Okay, and now it's time for Employee Spotlight Award to Christina Rohrer, Emergency Communications. Michael?
So, I enjoy the Spotlight Awards because we get to highlight some of our outstanding employees. So it's my pleasure to present Christine Rohrer with the Employee Spotlight Award. Ms. Rohrer was working as a dispatcher in emergency communication on the evening of October 17th when a call came in from an individual threatening to jump off a co-op tower in Elgin, Oklahoma. Mrs. Rohrer remained calm and she showed extraordinary empathy with the caller. The caller eventually disconnected with Ms. Rohrer, but law enforcement was able to arrive on scene and talk the individual down to safety. Due to Ms. Rohrer's calm demeanor and professionalism, she helped save a life and bring positive light onto the Emergency Communications Department of the City of Lawton. So thank you very much for remaining calm and dispatching our officers to help take care of our citizens and the people we dispatch for out in the community. So thank you very much. And I have this for you, so hang on.
And with that, we go to the reports by the mayor and city council, and we're going to start down here with Ward 1.
I don't have a lot to say today, Mr. Mayor, but running red lights or orange red, I'm really getting concerned about. I see that so often, and it's so dangerous, so just be careful. Don't do that. Thanks.
I just want to say I resent that. No, seriously. Just want to wish a Merry Christmas to all the citizens of Lawton. Be safe out there. We had some incidents this weekend where people were a little overserved. And please don't do that because it endangers all of our lives. Thank you.
I want to say a big thank you to Chief Smith and the special operations officers who have been doing the drug busts lately. I think hopefully this is going to show people not here, not on our watch. I also want to encourage people to go to see the premiere showing of Washington's Armor on January the 13th through the Museum of the Great Plains. This was a film that was partially filmed at the fort setting of the museum. And if you will contact the museum for a ticket, they're $5. If you want a VIP ticket, it's $25 to meet the cast and the crew. So I encourage you to do that. This was something that was very specially done here in Lawton. We're trying to push filming in the state of Oklahoma, and here we're highlighting Southwest Oklahoma. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Burke.
Well, this is kind of a surreal meeting for me. I started this back in 2007, and it was really something I thought I'd last a month or two and I'd probably get tired of. And it's almost 15 years later in January that I will have been serving here. And I've served with 3 different mayors, about 19 different city managers. No, I'm just kidding, not quite that many. A couple of, and so many wonderful council people that we didn't always agree, but at least one thing is we moved Lawton forward in the right way. And with the same, hopefully, the same ideas that we can make Lawton a better place. And that's the only reason I ever served, was because I felt like that we just needed some younger, I was a young guy then, a younger generation up here, and I was the youngest guy. And so what I hope is that more people will run for these seats, not to get rid of any of these people, I don't mean it like that, but young people need to be involved. Young business people in our community need to try to get involved. We need your voice. We need to hear you. And even if it's not on city council, into possibly just getting onto committees, just serve your community and give all that you can. I've not made all the right decisions or not all the right moves, but I've always loved my city, and it will always be my city. I'm not going away. I might be leaving this seat, and I'm leaving it, I think, in good hands to Mr. Gill, who has been in our community forever as well. And so if I'm ever needed, and I said they couldn't have picked a longer agenda today than the one for my last meeting. Usually the rule has been, Mayor, that they're very light around the holidays, but obviously. But I want to thank you all again, and if you ever need me, I'm here. Thank you.
And you do know you get to do all that over again on January the 9th, but we do appreciate you and appreciate you having something to say, and we'll go to Mr. Hampton.
Yes,
I'll make some
certainly.
comments on that.
Thank you, Mayor. It is the holiday season. It is Christmas. I want to encourage everybody during this time where families get together. If you don't have any place to eat, there are so many, and let me just get a shout out to all the places that are providing Christmas meals. Find you a place. Get out of the house. Go find you a place where people are serving meals, and don't be alone. This is certainly not a time for that. And Merry Christmas to all the citizens of Lawton, especially Ward 5, and I appreciate it, Mayor.
Okay, and we're going to back up here. Normally, the staff speaks at the end of the meeting, but the city attorney has a shadow, so he has something he wants to say about that.
Good afternoon, everyone. Speaking of getting young people involved, it is my honor and privilege today to introduce Charlinda Persky. Charlinda, why don't you stand up here so everybody can see you? Charlinda is a sophomore at Eisenhower High School, and she has indicated that she wants to pursue a legal career when she gets older, so I thought this would be a great opportunity to throw her into the deep end of the pool today and let her see what at least one lawyer does. But for those of you who are not familiar, the AIM program is a partnership between Lawton Public Schools, the Chamber of Commerce, and the City of Lawton to better arm and prepare our students for jobs once they graduate and for higher education. So we're super excited to have Charlinda up here today.
All right, and Mr. Fortenbaugh.
Just wanted to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody. There's so many good things going on right now, you just have to look around to see it.
Right, thank you. Mr. Warren?
When you're down on this end, it's already been said a bunch of times, but I just wanted to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody. I truly believe that this year we have done a better job of working together as a community, not just Lawton, but Southwest Oklahoma. And I just hope that we will continue that as we start the new year, and I'll put out just a little bit more effort to make things a little bit better than we did this year. And Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. And we welcome to the dais Command Sergeant Major Taylor, Garrison Commander, Fort Sill. And Sergeant Major, would you like to say anything?
Just happy holidays to everybody. And so Fort Sill will be hosting its final basic training graduation of the year tomorrow. It usually is on Fridays, but we moved it ahead because coming this weekend, holiday block leave, so thousands of trainees will exit Fort Sill and go home for the holidays. So it'll be a little quieter for the next couple weeks until they come back in 2023. So Happy New Year to everybody.
All right, thank you. And, you know, I would like to, we're gonna do a lot of this again, but it is Mr. Burke's last meeting, so that's a big deal, you know. And you have served your city, and it's clear that you love your city. And I know you're not through serving either, so we appreciate you. I want to tell you, I started the year saying Lawton has a great story to tell. And Lawton does have a great story to tell. A lot of great things going on. That doesn't mean we don't have some challenges, but we face our challenges. And last week, we had a room full of people that were here full of passion about a particular item. And you know, every one of them was here because they love Lawton. And we didn't agree on some things, and so they agreed with some and didn't agree with some, and that's okay. It's a community working through its challenges. That's okay. That's the way a community works. We have to be careful to not let that divide us. It is just a part of life, and it's a part of being a community, and part just like your own family. Now, I'm pretty sure you don't agree with your family every time. And I can tell you my wife doesn't agree with me all the time, but I'm always wrong. We have a great community, and it's a great community because it's driven by citizen volunteers that volunteer not just for city committees. It can be the Chamber of Commerce. It can be any number of groups that we deal with on a daily basis, run by volunteers. That means they get paid zero and probably have to pay their own expenses. That's what makes Lawton great. Lawton has a great story to tell because of the people that are in it and the people that give their time through whatever organization. Merry Christmas to everybody. And with that, we'll move on to audience participation. Anyone having an item of business to present to the City Council that does not appear on the agenda, please come forward at this time. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted with one motion. Should discussion be desired on an item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda prior to action and considered separately. Council, I have a request, poll number 3. Are there any others? Seeing none, can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the exception of item number 3.
We got a motion and a second. Please vote. And the motion carries 7-0. Item number 3, consider approving the placement of a memorial honoring those who lost their lives, excuse me, those who lost their lives in the September 11, 2001 terrorist attack at the Public Safety Center. Christine.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This is a 9/11 memorial that has been proposed to go in front of the Public Safety Building. And so this young lady's been working on her Girl Scout Gold Award for several years now. And so it's been through CPC for approval and is now coming to council for your blessing. Just wanted to make clarify that the funding for this memorial will be from private donations and from different organizations around town that she's responsible for collecting.
Council, the reason I pulled this is I just wanted to make clear I'd never seen open funding issued as a funding source, and I wanted to clarify for everybody that this is privately funded. I think it's a great thing, and I think that the Public Safety Center is the right place for it because it was first responders that were the heroes of 9/11. Thank you. Is there a motion? Motion for approval and a second. Discussion or debate?
I have one quick
Yes.
question.
Yes, sir.
This doesn't really show where it's actually going to be located. Do we have a,
Mr. Warren, it'll be located between as you're facing the front of the building from Railroad, and you can turn to the right to go into the building, right? Or to the left are the doors for the fire station. So you know that little rock peninsula that sticks out there? That's where the memorial is proposed to go in that area.
gotcha, thank you.
Any more discussion or debate? Please vote. Motion carries 7-0. That takes us up to unfinished business. Item 15, hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution declaring the structures located at 2004 Northwest Smith Avenue to be dilapidated pursuant to Section 651 Lawton City Code, ordering the owner to abate the nuisance, authorizing summary abatement, and authorizing the city attorney to commence legal action in district court to abate the nuisance.
Hi, this was brought to council on 11/15 to be declared dilapidated, and it was discovered that it was actually in probate, and so we continued the public hearing for today, and I believe our legal department has an update.
So Mayor and Council, we reached out to the attorney for the administrator of the estate. They do not oppose it being placed on the dilapidated list. The decedent passed away back in March. So they're obviously aware at this point, and they're not really sure what they're going to do with the property. So they have no objection for it being placed on the list.
Okay, so we continued that public hearing without closing it. So we are reconvening that public hearing. If anybody would like to come forward and speak on 2004 Northwest Smith Avenue, please do so at this time. Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council? Motion.
I move to approve the resolution declaring the structure on the property a dilapidated public nuisance and authorize the abatement thereof as set forth in the resolution.
A second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 16, receive a presentation concerning the outside water rates and how they compare to inside water rates, and consider adopting the revised Council Policy 5-2 and approving a resolution lifting the moratorium on water sales outside the city limits effective immediately. Joe Don.
Yes, we're about 95% or 95, 98% complete with our analysis on the rates and how to present that to City Council. And we'd ask that you table this item again until January 10th, I think. It's the next council meeting.
So, council?
I move to table this until the first council meeting in January.
Okay, we have a motion to table till January 10th. Who's second? Mr. Hampton? Okay, we are tabling this to the first regularly scheduled meeting, January 10th. Discussion or debate? Please vote. Motion carries 7-0. Business item number 17, hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution declaring the structures located at 122 Northeast Angus Avenue, 510 Southwest Monroe Avenue, 1103 Southwest 9th Street, 1510 Southwest Texas Avenue, 1612 Southwest Douglas Avenue, 1812 Southwest Day Avenue, 2422 Southwest Washington Avenue to be dilapidated pursuant to Section 651 Lawton City Code, ordering the owner to abate the nuisance, authorizing summary abatement, and authorizing the city attorney to commence legal action in district court to abate the nuisance. Council, I purposefully did not read one address because we're striking it from the agenda item. Terry.
All righty, good afternoon, Mayor and council members. The first property, well, do I need to talk about this one that we're striking first? Okay. Okay, the first property we're going to talk about is 122 Northeast Angus Avenue. It currently does not have any active utilities. It is, no utilities have been active since 2018. It has broken windows and doors, damaged trim, soffits, siding that are all in disrepair. Portions of the building has been dismantled. Roofing has loose and missing shingling, allowing moisture into the interior. The accessory structure is also unsecured and lacks protective treatments. Any questions?
Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing on 122 Northeast Angus Avenue. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Council?
I move to approve a resolution declaring the structure on the property a dilapidated public nuisance and authorize the abatement thereof as set forth in the resolution.
Is there a second? Second. Have a motion and a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote.
Harris. Chapman. Burke. Hampton. Fortenbaugh. Warren. Hankins.
The motion carries. Moving us to 510 Southwest Monroe Avenue. Excuse me, Terry.
Okay, 510 Southwest Monroe Avenue is in Ward 7. It is currently in active water since 2011.
So can we get the screen changed?
Oh, I'm sorry.
There we
There
go.
we go.
Very good.
510 Southwest Monroe Avenue currently has inactive water. It has been inactive since 2011. The roof is in very bad disrepair. Holes are in the roof, missing shingles, allowing elements to access the interior and attic areas, rotting trim and soffits. Excuse me. We have unsecured doors. The door is actually missing on the structure. The exterior is lacking protective treatment on portions of the building, and there's definitely some foundation issues on this one. Any questions?
Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing.
Mayor, I would just add that this property is also going through probate. Received a letter this week from the executor of the estate requesting that this property be tabled until the first meeting in January because the attorney of record was not able to make it today.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to open the public hearing, and if a council person would please move and a second to continue the public hearing. So I'm going to open the public hearing on 510 Southwest Monroe Avenue. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward at this time. Now's the time for a motion.
I'd make a motion that we
Have a motion to continue the public hearing. Did I hear a second?
Second.
A second. Discussion or debate?
Mayor,
Okay, we're continuing till January 10, 2023.
Mayor,
Right.
can we move that to the second meeting in January? Because we usually do the D&Ds, unless council changes their procedures. We usually do them in the second meeting in the month. Can we move it to the second meeting?
I would be agreeable to moving it to the second meeting.
You made the second? Okay, so we have a friendly amendment to make this, what is that, the 23rd? To January 23rd. Please vote. 24th. We're going to get it right here in a minute. We don't want to have to show up for one house. Let's make sure we got it right. Okay, 24th. Everybody satisfied? Did we vote?
Chapman? Burke? Hampton? Fortenbaugh? Warren? Hankins? Harris?
Motion carries. Moving us to 1103 Southwest 9th. Terry.
Okay, 1103 Southwest 9th Street does not have active water, hasn't had active utilities since 2015. It's a two-story structure that has lacks exterior protective treatment. It has areas of missing siding. It's got some debris. It looks like there's an old hot tub that's left there that's been abandoned. Has missing sidings in some of the areas, as well as broken and boarded windows, deteriorating trim and soffits, as well as other debris on the property. We also have an accessory structure here that has been demolished, but all the debris is left sitting on the property that would also need to be removed. Oh, what happened? I just realized. Okay, there we go. I'm so sorry. I went a little bit too far. 1103 Southwest Nights. There we go. Any questions? Oh, I'm just not having a good day today.
It's okay. Seeing no questions, I'll open the public hearing on 1103 Southwest 9th Street. Anyone wishing to come forward on this item, please do so at this time. Yes, sir. Come on up and give us your name and address, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Edelmiro Ramirez. I live at 1303 Southwest Summit. I'm retired Army. I'm the fiance for the owner of the house, which we just saved it last year from being put it on auction. We pay over $3,000 and all that on the house. And we are, please give us a break. That word dilapidated for me, something too much English, but I look it in the YouTube and it tells me the dictionary. So what I would like is an extension from this council to give us an opportunity to go ahead and recover the property, because the property, me as an ex-contractor for Remax and White Glove, I can go ahead and get that property back to city standard. And basically, right now the owner is current, the real owner is her son. He's on jail. Doing rehab for drugs, which I'm glad they cleaned him out the street and all that, but he left a friend to stay there without water, without electricity, just to maintain his personal finances, because as you all know, that neighborhood down there, all these empty houses, they've been breaking in windows, doors, and all that, and stealing. There's a lot of value equipment in the house. So all we demand is an extension, give us an opportunity. I can rent me one of those Billings dumpster, clean all that debris that is all over on there, and any repairs. Her son, her brother, he's a very good handy guy, and we got other friends that can do it. So please give us an extension. And as
Sir,
citizens,
just so that you know, we don't want to tear your property down, okay? Our goal is that you get a permit, and this is going to give you your extension, okay? So you'll have enough time to be able to come to the city, get your permit. They'll help you get the permit, get your permit, and then you can start the process. As long as you're making progress, they'll keep renewing your permit, okay? But you just got to show progress, and that's all we're asking. And trust me, we are not in the business of wanting to tear houses down. We want you to rehab that house.
Right, and
we
that's
need
my
it.
goal there.
We need it.
I
So
gotta
please
start
don't-
with something. I never done no
Yeah, so
no
they'll-
permit through the city or nothing. I always get contractors, which
Yes, sir.
I
And they will
also
help,
manage
and they
some
will,
properties around.
and they will help you get that done, okay? We just need to get a permit to get it done.
Okay, so right now I don't have to worry about being voted for being on demolished status?
It may go on the D&D most likely, but that doesn't mean it's gonna be torn down. It just means you have to get a permit.
I will be working through Christmas. I will
Yes,
get
sir.
it straight.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is anybody else that would like to come and speak on 1103 Southwest 9th Street?
Here's the paperwork on the permitting process.
Did you want to speak, sir?
And this is the person Roland that you
Yeah,
need
speak
to
up to the
let them know
microphone,
you don't-
please.
So you can apply for the permits that you need to take care of.
When they're sending out letters, should they be sending them to where the property tax ends up at, you know what I mean, the
Yeah,
address?
step in front of the podium so we can hear you, make sure everybody hears you.
Like whenever you got the property tax coming in, right? It's mailed to an address where it's present to where the people can get it and pay their bills, okay? My mother ended up getting a tax paper saying it was due. So whatever y'all's doing, y'all go through the treasurer for an address to send a letter to say, hey, y'all need to come to court. That letter never came to her address. It was in that mailbox over at the other house. If we didn't go by there, we wouldn't be here today. I got this letter on Thursday and called Friday afternoon.
Okay, we'll let the city attorney address that.
Terry, can you tell council what notice procedures did we follow? So I assume we published the newspaper, we posted on the property, and we
Right.
sent notice to the last address of record of the record owner. Is that correct?
That is correct. We use Mackey Law Firm to do all of our legal research. They do all the research based off of what's filed with the county records, but not just on what's on the tax rolls, but anything that looks like a document that might not be completely processed correctly, that may not be valid. Anybody that may have legal interest in that property will receive notice so that we cover all bases, so that anybody who wants to have a say on the situation is notified. And we do go ahead and post the properties physically as well, posting publication in the newspaper at least 2 weeks prior to the council meeting, identifying that a notice of public hearing is being done. So we mail out, we do the postings in the newspaper, the local newspaper, and we post the physical property as well, and that is what is required for state law.
Mayor, council, I'm satisfied that we've met our legal notice requirements in this case.
Thank you, Terry. It's a good report. Does anyone else wish to speak on 1103 Southwest 9th Street? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council.
I move to approve a resolution declaring this structure on this property dilapidated public nuisance and authorize the abatement thereof as set forth in the resolution.
Is there a second? Motion and a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote.
Burke.
Yes.
Hampton. Fortenbaugh. Warren. Hankins. Harris. Chapman.
Motion carries. Moving us to 1510 Southwest Texas Avenue. Terry?
Okay, 1510 Southwest Texas Avenue. It has no utilities, hasn't had any utilities since 2012. This property has an accessory structure on it that is dilapidated, and it's actually been demolished and the debris is left sitting there for somebody to clean up. It lacks protective covering. There are holes in the buildings itself. The soffits and the trim have rotting and decaying wood. Foundation issues, which is causing separations within the property and allowing elements and animals to get into the structures, the attic area and roofing areas. Any questions?
Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing on 1510 Southwest Texas Avenue. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Council?
I move to approve a resolution declaring the structure on the property a dilapidated public nuisance and authorize the abatement thereof as set forth in the resolution.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote.
Hampton. Fortenbaugh. Warren. Hankins. Harris. Chapman? Burke?
Yes.
Motion carries. Moving us to 1612 Southwest Douglas Avenue. Terry?
Okay. 1612 Southwest Douglas Avenue. This has some abandoned vehicles on it that will also have to get removed if the owner doesn't address those. There's at least 3 vehicles on the property. It has trim and soffits that are in disrepair and rotting. It lacks exterior protective treatment. There are holes in the exterior walls and along what looks like a little enclosed carport area. It has openings along the soffits and trim area that allows access to the attic area as well for moisture and animals. Any questions?
Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing on 1612 Southwest Douglas Avenue. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward at this time. Yes, ma'am. Please come forward and give us your name and address.
Excuse me. My voice is kind of hoarse. I'm sick, but I'm here. My name is Katrina Johnson. My address is 2214 Northwest Hoover Avenue, Lawton. This property, my husband is buying this property from JP Investments, or Mr. Pearson, and we have done a lot of work into that house. That is all those vehicles are ours. We're going to tear down that garage because it's already almost gone anyways. All the windows has been replaced. Everything is basically structurally sound. Only thing about it is that my husband is incarcerated. He's the one who does a lot of the repairs. That hole you see up there, that was where electricity or something, I guess it was redone or something, whoever had the house and redone it or whatever. Electricity was down there, so he went up there and capped it off, and we didn't have a chance to do that. I'm asking because I'm disabled. I can't do it myself. He just left from down here in Comanche County. He's in Bonita right now. He's going to be there about 3 to 5 months, and he's the one who's been doing all the work on the house. We're still actually paying Mr. Pearson. I thought maybe he was going to show today since I am sick, and my kids are basically sick too. But if I didn't come, nobody would be here. So I'm here.
Can we just make sure that we don't want to tear your property down again, okay? That's not what we're here for, all right? If you'll get a permit, get these vehicles probably moved to the right location. We're just looking to get something started because 99% of the time, it's not that we're trying to find your property. It looks like this.
Mm-hmm.
One of your neighbors has called and said,
Yeah.
there's a problem, right?
Yeah,
And it's
'cause
hurting my property. Yeah.
Everybody want my black card. I've broken it like
So-
3-4 times.
So what I'm saying is, you got to help your neighbors out. So get a permit. It'll give you some time, and they'll work with you. They're going to work with you as long as they know you're trying to do something. They're going to try to help you out. So please just get the permit and get the process started so that way it's not torn down and not, even though it's probably going to go on the D&D, it's not going to be torn down unless you just don't do something to it to get it, to be trying to fix it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to see about getting those, at least the vehicles, something that
Yes,
I know
ma'am.
I can kind of do myself.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
Is
so
there
much.
anyone else that would like to come forward and speak on 1612 Southwest Douglas Avenue? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council?
Approve a resolution, thank you. Move to approve a resolution declaring this structure on the property a dilapidated public nuisance and authorize the abatement thereof as set forth in the resolution.
Is there a second? Second. Motion and a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote.
Fortenbaugh. Johnson. Warren. Hankins. Harris. Chapman. Burke. Hampton.
Motion carries. Moving us to 1812 Southwest A Avenue. Terry?
All right, 1812 Southwest A Avenue. It has no utilities, hasn't had any since 2017. It lacks exterior protective treatment. It has broken and boarded up windows. deteriorated trim and soffit areas that allow for moisture and animals to get into the attic area as well. There are cracks along the foundation, and there's a little bit of separation. It looks like that where the foundation is shifted to allow gaps in that as well, to allow moisture and whatnot to get into it. Any questions?
Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing to 1812 Southwest A Avenue. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Council?
I move to approve a resolution declaring the structure on this property dilapidated public nuisance and authorize the abatement thereof as set forth in the resolution.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote.
Hankins. Harris. Chapman. Burke. Hampton. Fortenbaugh. Johnson. Warren.
The motion carries. Moving us to 2422 Southwest Washington Avenue. Terry.
Okay. 2422 Southwest Washington Avenue has had no utilities since 2017. I only have a couple pictures. It is a completely burned out structure, cannot be secured. There's also an abandoned vehicle on the property as well. Any questions?
I would just like to ask the city manager to help you guys. Neighborhood Services needs to contact somebody at City Hall somewhere to pick up the polycarts. I bet you half of these houses or more, so one had 2 in front of it. Now, I don't know if those are free or not, but I'm assuming the answer to that is no. And so I've been complaining about this for months. And they need to be picked up as soon as they're put on the D&D. Pick up the cart. Some of these places haven't had utilities, one since 2011, and they still have a polycart. There's an issue, and council, we need to take care of that. I mean, surely somebody else could be using those carts and paying for them. Thank you.
Any other questions, council? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing on 2422 Southwest Washington Avenue. Anyone wishing to come forward and speak on this item, please do so at this time. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Council?
Move to approve a resolution declaring the structure on the property a dilapidated public nuisance and authorize the abatement thereof as set forth in the resolution.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote.
Harris. Chapman. Burke. Hampton. Fortenbaugh. Johnson. Warren. Hankins.
Motion carries, and that completes item 17. Moving to number 18. Hold a public hearing to consider closing a portion of the right-of-way of Northwest Pershing Drive adjacent to lots 1 and 20, Block 19, Liberty Heights Edition. Cameron.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you. I didn't get the memo we were supposed to change back. Hey, he got third place in the.
As ugly as that sweater is, he did not win.
I did not win. Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. This is to consider a closing of a portion of right-of-way off of Northwest Pershing Drive, adjacent to lots 1 and 20, Block 20. The original plat was done in 1940. The structures that were built on lots 1 and 20 were built in 1941. As you can see from this aerial view, the structures were actually built where the road was supposed to be built. This is just a correction of the maps. It will be brought back as a replat. The property is owned currently by the Wolvertons. They are looking to sell it. The listing agent is Max Sassine. He has stated that he will be assisting the property owners in replatting this and working with Landmark Engineering to get that replat done. He is here if you have any questions for him. But there will be no change to the structures. There will be no change to the roadway. This is just a correction because back in 1940, when this was platted, the roadway was not built where it was supposed to be. So this is just a correction of the maps.
Council, do you have questions? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing on closing a portion of the right-of-way of Northwest Pershing Avenue Persian Drive, adjacent to lots 1 and 20, Block 19, Liberty Heights Edition. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Council.
I move to approve the ordinance, waive the reading of the ordinance, and read the title only.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second. Please read the title.
An ordinance closing 50 feet of road to the east of Lot 1 and Lot 20, Block 19, Liberty Heights Edition.
Please vote. Motion carries 8-0. Good job. That moves us to item 19. Hold a public hearing to consider closing utility easement located on lots 11 through 14, Block 3, Morford Edition. Cameron.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. This is a public hearing to consider closing utility easement located off lots 11 through 14, Block 3, Morford Hills. This is just to the east of Sheridan and south of Ferris Avenue. There is currently a utility easement that has a sewer line. There has been the property has been purchased on the east and the west side of this utility easement. Their plan is to build across it, so that requires the utility easement to be closed. The sewer line will be coordinated with public utilities to be capped and a manhole placed. This has been noticed to everyone within 300 feet of the property on November 11th, which was 33 property owners, and posted in Lawton Constitution on December 1st. There were no calls for or against it. There were calls with some questions, but after communicating with them, explaining what was going on, there were no concerns. This will not close the alleyway. This is only pertaining to the easement on these two properties.
Council, have any questions? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak on this item, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Council.
I move to approve the ordinance, waive the reading of the ordinance, and read the title only.
Have a motion and a second. Please read the title.
An ordinance closing a utility easement located on the west 5 feet of lots 11 and 12 and the east 5 feet of lots 13 and 14, Block 3, Morford Edition, Lawton, Oklahoma.
Please vote. Motion carries 8-0. Item number 20, consider approving an amendment to Council Policy 1-6, Council Rules of Procedure, by establishing requirements on items that are tabled indefinitely and items that require staff research. Mr. Warren or Tracy, or who's going to talk? Oh, it's attorney, okay.
So Mayor and Council, this is just an item to update Council Policy 1-6. So when Council doesn't specify a period of time that an item will be tabled, or it doesn't give staff a time limit or a deadline on the research, this just establishes that that item will come back 60 days after it was tabled, or staff was given a directive to research a particular topic, and every 30 days thereafter.
Second.
Motion for approval and a second. Discussion or debate?
Mayor.
Yes.
I think this is a good change, and I would hope that we would not be in the habit of tabling things indefinitely. I think a date certain is always best.
Any other discussion or debate? Please vote. And the motion carries 8-0. Moving us to item 21, direct staff to determine the necessity and efficiency of the 2 deputy city manager positions, one of which is currently vacant. Further direct the city manager to leave the vacant position open until such time as council considers whether having 2 deputy city managers is feasible in light of current budgetary constraints. We have a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion for approval and a second. Discussion or debate?
Mayor. Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Moore. I'm concerned because the other previous assistant city manager was carrying quite a workload. So if we're not going to replace that, who's going to carry the load? And is that more work that we're going to put on the city manager, or are we just going to retitle, have someone else do the work and retitle it, and it won't be? I don't see the savings here. We're going to pay somebody to do this work. I guess the savings would be if they're not at the rate of an assistant city manager pay, but somebody's going to still do the work, so I don't see the necessity of this.
Mr. Burke?
Well, I've been here when there was just a city manager, and then when there was a city manager and a deputy, and then 2 deputies. And I'm going to tell you, the best thing we ever did was have 2 deputies. And the reason I'm saying that is because there's too many departments in this city, and they need to be broken up. And if you don't, you end up having a ton of supervisors, and this is not a gig to them. They're kind of going rogue. They're doing their own thing because they don't have anybody able to oversee them fast enough and help give them direction in what this council, and they don't always come to every one of these meetings, so they don't hear what the council directive is in most instances. They're only getting second or third hand knowledge. And so what I saw when we just went to 2 years ago, it became a real issue, and we had burnout in that office. People couldn't keep up. It was a disaster, and so I know Dwayne is trying his best to keep up with everything, but there's only so much one person can do. And so I hope that you would consider putting that position back in. It is definitely going to make the difference in whether what the citizens see and getting responses fast enough and getting things done fast enough is going to be the issue.
I really think that all this does is reevaluate it. And I think the city manager has a hold on that position anyway because of what they call, I think it's terminal leave. And the individual that left that position is still being paid because he's on terminal leave. I don't think this takes it past that. If it does, it's minimal past that. And all it does is reevaluate it. And I think it shows the citizens that we're doing our job, reevaluating, making sure that we're doing everything the best possible and spending the city's money the best way possible. So I think it's a good thing to reevaluate. And the best time to do that is when it's empty, because it becomes personal when there's somebody in the position, and it's never personal, it's just an evaluation. But I think the time to do it is when it's vacant, and that is now. Is there any further comments?
Mayor, when I get comments from citizens saying, oh, we're too heavy at the top, we're too heavy at the top, I don't think there's a realization of understanding how many departments are under these 2 gentlemen right now and how complex that is. I will never forget when Richard Vergowski was at a neighborhood watch meeting and he listed all of the things that his one little part was responsible for. And that was such an eye-opener for my neighborhood watch members, finally understanding how complicated this is. I don't want burnout with either one of these gentlemen, and sometimes I see them and they look like they have been through the ringer a few times. And I hope that we do consider, if it's financially feasible, to work out some kind of a situation to divide this up to alleviate some of this.
Ms. Johnson?
I'll go for it. Okay. I agree. And also what the mayor was saying was what I was going to say is that I think that we take this time, since we are still paying the other city manager that was here before, to reevaluate and kind of streamline some things and make sure that when that position is filled again, that it's more precise in what's going on. And yes, we do have a lot of different departments, but I think that, not saying, Michael, that your department's not doing a good job, but I think this is a prime opportunity to kind of get some things streamlined so that there's more efficiency.
Mr. Warren.
I just wanted to say that I don't believe that we necessarily are going to have to change anything, but I think, like has been mentioned, this is the time, we're already looking at how we compare to other cities of our size in the area, and this is the time to compare that, and if everything is the way it should be, then we move on. If it's not, then we change it, but I'm gonna adopt this. It's gonna be on my tombstone. We don't know what we don't know.
And Mr. Hampton.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. For the sake of transparency to the citizens, transparency even to us, taking a look at something, I think, and looking at the details of responsibilities, dividing them up, and knowing who's doing what, it's never a bad idea. And I too agree that there's a time to strike, and probably a time to take a look at that, just evaluate those responsibilities, and again, in dividing them up. Maybe there's even if we stick with two, there's a better way to divide up those responsibilities that need to take place. So I'm in support of doing this study.
Okay, Ms. Hankins.
I agree with most of what's been said. I think this is the ideal time to evaluate that. There's a cost still with that deputy city manager and retirement payouts and things like that. So I think this is the right time to look at the financial feasibility as well.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Fortenbaugh.
It's important to understand that by passing this, we're not taking any action per se. This is over $200,000 worth of personnel costs, and I just think we owe it to the citizens to take a look at it.
We're going to have an item here in a minute where we have a grid that shows how we compared something, can't remember what it is, to different cities. And I think that's going to be great, and that's what I would expect on this, is that we get a grid, and I would compare to the 3 cities larger and the 3 cities smaller than us, and however it turns out, it turns out. That's what we're doing on the benchmarking. The 3 cities larger than us are Edmond, Broken Arrow, and Norman. We're right in the middle, and the 3 cities smaller than us are, let me see if I can get this right, Moore, Midwest City, and Enid. And we're right in the middle with approximately 77,000 citizens served. And Mr. Harris, are you wanting to speak again?
Just one quick question to the city
manager.
Sure. Is there a budget issue, Michael? I mean, have we not budgeted for this position, or is it just the additional pay that will come?
What the mayor said is correct. It would be improper to fill the position currently at this time, as we are paying out the current city manager. Okay. What we used to do, we used what they called higher lag or lapse funding to cover the cost, and departments would fill positions before they actually were completely paid out. So we have eliminated that practice. And we also have eliminated historical leave, except for the employees that were under that rule. So there will be less of that occurring in the future, and therefore this time frame won't be as long. So it might be a month or two in the future where somebody's paid out their historical, their vacation or whatever sick leave they have left. So this was an unusual circumstance, and the fact that Richard had acquired so many leave days and historical sick days. So it wouldn't be proper to fill it at that time, because we would be double filling that position, which would be double billing that position. So that's the only reason it hasn't been filled, is because of that reason.
Please vote. Motion carries 8-0. Item number 22, discuss the idea of a bag and tie campaign and direct staff accordingly. Caitlin.
Mayor, Council, thank you so much for having me up here today.
But I've said Rudolph.
You know, it was relevant for a couple of reasons. We had our ugly Christmas sweater contest today, and I didn't place either. But it was also relevant because I figured wearing a trashy jumpsuit was fitting because I'm talking about trash today in the Bag and Tie campaign. So we'll just get started here. So just a little bit of background. A few months ago, back in July, the Communications and Marketing Department was directed to come back and bring a proposal for a Bag and Tie campaign, and I appreciate your patience as I got my feet wet here in the city and bring this back to you today. So let's talk about the problem. Wind-blown litter, and we know that that's going to be a constant issue just being in Oklahoma in general. And I went out and I took these photos, and unfortunately, it was really easy to find places across our city that unfortunately look like this. But neighborhood services and solid waste collection, they are doing their part to try to mitigate that problem. Neighborhood services, there's a lot of background that Terry Bayonis is much more well-versed than I am, and she can come up here and talk about how they help that situation. But bottom line, it seems like the citizens are really the ones footing the bill for additional trash and litter. Even businesses in our city, they can pay a minimum of $190 for that not being cleaned up, depending on how much debris there is or how much time it takes to clean up that debris. Also, solid waste collection, they're the ones that the community actually sees. They're the ones in our trash trucks and driving around picking up those poly carts. And if they see that there's unbagged trash in that poly cart, they're gonna stick a tag on it and say, hey, you're not following our bag and tie guidelines, buddy. You need to do it, and we're not gonna pick up your trash until that problem is fixed, and then we're gonna come back and charge you $23 because our staff has to run an out of cycle or an additional collection. Additionally, we have a field supervisor that will perform random inspections on 10 residential homes, 5 days during the week. And I thought that the data that came out of here was kind of interesting. They found that 30% of residents, only 30%, are actually following these bag and tie guidelines, 20% of residents having both bagged and loose trash in those poly carts, and a whopping 50% of our residents who aren't following it at all and just having loose trash. Additionally, we're seeing that on the way to the landfill, even in the landfill, over 1,000 man-hours were spent collecting that blowing litter throughout the landfill facility, and that's just from July 1st of this year, and another 100 hours spent by a contractor picking up litter and debris on 11th heading out to the landfill. So obviously that's our problem, but there are solutions. Of course there are solutions, and that's done in the way of education. And I think it's pretty simple here, just reminding citizens why it's so important that we bag and tie our trash. We all want cleaner streets. That loose debris, that loose trash is making our routes run slower, costs are gonna increase, and ultimately it's gonna impact those citizens and business owners. I think it's pretty self-explanatory why we need to keep debris out of our lakes, streams, and rivers, but also just for the life cycle or the lifespan of the trash carts. And really just letting our residents and business owners know what those consequences are for not following them. I think that can be done pretty easily. And we're going to do all of that through public service announcements that my department will produce along and put those on social media and utilize our local media outlets. And what I'm really excited about is partnering with Lawton Public Schools. I think getting the youngest kids involved, man, they're going to go home and they're going to tell their parents, Mom, Dad, Caitlin told us we need to do this, and you need to listen to that kid at the city. But, so their involvement, we thought it would be fun to host a coloring contest. And the graphics that you see here, we made those in black and white, so that's what the kids will be coloring. For first, second, and third grade students at each elementary school. And we would love for those kids to turn in those coloring sheets, and Councilwoman Hankins and Councilwoman Chapman and Mayor Booker, we would ask you guys to judge these coloring sheets. The top 3 students would win a bicycle, courtesy of the Lawton Enhancement Trust Authority, who so kindly granted us some funds to make sure we get those bicycles for the top kiddos. Also involving our middle and high school students. I think that it would be really neat if we could see the creativity and artwork of those students and see if they can design something for our beautification efforts. And we would pick the top 12 students that would be featured in a 2024 Keep Lawton Beautiful calendar. And our print shop did these. So 98 cents a piece, we would utilize the print shop's services to get that done. So pass those out to the community and of course the schools. And once again, that would be something that you guys would have to judge for the top 12 students. So that would be great. Also, our stormwater maintenance division, I know that they're already heavily involved in our schools. They already do multiple presentations, but one of those is an anti-litter campaign, not a campaign, but a presentation. So we would really try to ramp up those efforts to get our stormwater maintenance division back in the schools, teaching those kiddos why it's so important. Now this is where I need your opinion, I need your direction, because I'm giving you a few options for a 1 month, 2 month, and 3 month campaign. And a 1 month, I think that these all should start in February, just to give us plenty of time to produce those PSAs. A 2 month, of course, February and March, and a 3 month, February, March, and April. And it would be really great because it would butt up to our trash off in April. Anyway, so the idea behind this campaign, it's kind of a mix of a traditional and a social media driven campaign. The traditional aspect coming from rolling billboards, putting vinyl on a couple of LATS buses that always are circulating around town, and putting magnets on all of our trash trucks. We have 20 magnets that could go on those that also circulate around the city. Utilize the Lawton Constitution for maybe that older demographic through print media. Councilwoman Chapman laughs. Hopefully that would target, well, yes, and also Facebook, because I know that Councilwoman Chapman's also on Facebook. We would give an allowance to social media, and the only reason Facebook is taken out specifically is because we have an option to actually pay money to boost those posts so more people could see the PSAs that we create. In the City of Lawton print shop, 98 cents a piece. We thought 300 calendars would be just fine. And please keep in mind that Fast Signs was the most affordable sign company. We have quotes from 2 others, so if that's something that you would be interested in, just let me know and I can get you those quotes. So what we're hoping to see is just everybody understand what our bag and tie guidelines is for a total of about $8,500. And I know on the previous slide, a 3-month campaign was about $7,500, but we would request an additional $1,000 just in case there are any unforeseen circumstances or incidents that kind of pop up throughout this campaign. So Communications and Marketing Department just really suggesting a 3-month campaign not to exceed $8,500, and we would put those PSAs together with different messaging to be boosted and posted on social. We're going to have those rolling billboards featuring those graphics that you saw earlier in the presentation, Lawton Constitution advertisements, and then of course getting those kids involved.
So I do have a question.
Sure.
How much is our contract for picking up trash on 11th Street a year?
I don't know the answer to that, Mayor, but I bet I can get you that answer.
Let me tell you why I'm asking. Because it's more than it would cost us to add TV to this campaign and reach a lot of people with television. I personally would like to see TV added to this budget, but I'm excited about getting it started, whatever the council decides to do.
And actually, I do have TV added. So this is more of a traditional campaign, but this includes everything. This includes LATS, this includes KSWO, and a lot of spots on KSWO, if you'll take a look up there and just see how many, 153 30-second spots. It's not cheap, but we would talk about some serious saturation there. We would also add in our radio stations as well. So prices are on there too. And the only reason that we suggested the more condensed version is because we feel it's more cost effective, really driving people to social media and utilizing the platforms that are already out there. But again, if you are interested in including everything, you're going to see that price increase just a little bit. But these are the totals. So if we want to go with the more cost-effective sign company, we would be looking at about 35, well, I can't do math very well, can I? Almost $30,000 for a 3-month campaign, going with the most cost-effective sign company. Because we're also wanting to include some incidentals in there as well.
Okay, Mr. Burke has a question.
Caitlin, I think you've done a great job putting this together. Years ago, we talked about this when we went to Texas, and we saw all their trash trucks were covered in this type of stuff, and it was aimed at children, because when you go to the schools and you make presentations in the schools, which I think is something that we have to do, right? Get in those schools, make the presentation, they go home and tell mom and dad, we're not doing right. Now, I don't know about everybody else in here, but I found a 95-gallon trash bag. Does everybody else have one? I didn't have one. So I went online and I found them and I bought a box of them. The best thing I've ever bought in my life, because I only have to have one bag. And it comes with a big band, and you band it at the top of your can. You put everything in your can. When you're through, you wrap it up, you're done, and you never, ever have to pick it up. So if you're a lawn person and you do your own lawn, which I do, when you dump it in there, it's not so hard at picking those bags up and putting them into the cans. But I can find the name for you and get it to you. But I've given them to friends, and they're all like, give me the website, because this is the best thing ever, right? But I think that, number one, we use, currently, tell me if I'm correct, we still use the inmates to pick up trash?
We use a number of methods. We do use some inmates, and we also have a contract.
Because the inmates we're supposed to have 2 people running the 2 different trucks with the inmates. And that, they should pick up hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tons of trash. I mean, I can't remember the numbers in the past. It was huge.
Now, there was a point, and we're getting back into that because of COVID, that we could not
correct.
take them out of the jail, and certain things that we had to do, but yes.
So we are getting back to that now? Because it was huge. I mean, Lita thought that was a great thing. And now, as far as the money that's spent, Mayor, out at the deal, that came from tipping fees. There's an amount set up by council for tipping fees that controls that money that the council chose to use to pick up along 11th Street there that was so bad because we had so many complaints for that area. But I agree with you that if we can figure out a way to pick it up cheaper, we ought to probably do that, Mayor. But this is a great, and Lita thought it was too. That's why we purchased the bikes. Kids love bikes, and if you give them an opportunity to win a bike, a lot of kids don't have those these days and can't afford them. So I think it's great. I love your big project where you go out and you really go after it. But my problem is, my only concern, okay, and just because I advertise all the time, is if you don't continually advertise for more than 3 months, after 3 months when it's over, right? And people just forget.
Sure.
They just forget. This has to be an ongoing thing because trash doesn't stop.
Right.
Right? So my thinking is figuring out a way to fund this, Mayor, to where we can all be happy with that.
So we are looking at using beautification funds from Propel. Now, I do want to, the only reason I brought up how much it cost us to pick up trash is to say prevention sounds cheap to paying people to pick up trash. I know at one time our first bid was $100,000 to pick that road up. I think they did find someone cheaper. I think Mr. Fortenbaugh, did you have something? No?
What keyed me into this, Mayor, thank you, is we burned over 1,000 man-hours at the landfill alone picking up trash that was not bagged when it was dumped in there. This seems kind of cheap when you compare what we're spending to deal with the problem.
And I like the idea of doing the TV and the radio at the same time. I think, especially for that first period, I think if we just did Facebook and stuff, that it wouldn't be nearly as effective as doing everything. And then if we need to, we can taper off a little bit after that first 3 months. But by that time, hopefully, we'll have found a way to fund it on an ongoing measure.
Caitlin, does that include, like a lot of people have the smart TVs, so they're not really necessarily watching certain channels. So those commercials, are they going to be popping up
On streaming devices?
Yes.
I would need to check with the representative over at KSWO and see if that is looped in. Whenever I watch local news on my streaming services, I still get all of the local commercials. At least I do. So I don't see why it wouldn't, but I can double check that and make sure.
Mr. Harris?
Yes, I was wondering if we could offset some of these costs with increased fines for those people that are not obeying especially the bulk trash stuff, because there seems to be a lot of issue out there, especially in my ward, of people putting their bulk trash out like 2 weeks ahead of time.
Well, that does bring up a question I have, is whatever happened to our sticker campaign that we talked about over a year ago, where we were going to educate people with the sticker that weren't following the rules? Did we ever follow through with that? And have any citations been given? Do you know the answer to that?
No, sir, I don't. I can.
Do you know that, Michael?
Mayor, we have issued a number of those door hangers, door knockers. Yes, I do not know if we have issued citations. I would have to check with Jason, our solid waste superintendent, to see if we've issued citations on the bulk trash. I want to say yes, but I'm not going to sit up here and tell you something I don't know to be absolutely the truth. I know there's been conversations also with the prosecutor's office on how to go about actually prosecuting those, because there are citizens who state that that's not their trash, that somebody dumped on their lawn illegally. So there's a process to go through with that. But yes, to answer your question, yes, but I cannot equivocally say that somebody has been fined yet.
So that has to do with bulk trash, but it's pretty evident if your trash can's full of unbagged trash, that your trash can's full of unbagged trash. And maybe the prosecutor is okay with that one?
Again, Mayor, I'd have to talk to the prosecutor on that.
He is. Yeah. Mr. Burke.
I just had one more thing. I started using a company here locally called Bin Blasters, and they actually clean your trash cans. They come after you, if you're on a Friday pickup like I am, they empty your can, they tell you to leave your can out, send you a text message. They come by and they wash your can, sanitize your can, put it up by your front door and say, thank you very much, we'll see you in 3 months. It's the best thing I've done, because you never had a stinky trash can in your garage? It's not good. It ain't good. And so, honestly, these are really some good things that people are being creative, I think.
And actually, Councilman, I laughed because I saw that. I
Yeah.
saw the advertisement for it, and I was like, no way, I'm trying to tell people to bag their trash so nothing will fall out, so it will never get dirty.
Exactly. Well, that may put them out of business, but but they even do the big roll-off dumpsters. So some of the businesses like mine, I don't want a stinky one by my business either. So they do them all.
Mr. Hampton.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to weigh in on a couple of things, but I saw some of the caricatures there. Do we have like are you putting together like a mascot kind of? A lot of businesses have kind of that in marketing to the kids. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And the reason I bring that up is because I think that we mentioned about this being a long-term thing, and in a sense, I think that sometimes branding this thing, and I've seen this in other cities, I think with trash even, to where if you have a mascot or something like that that has and as we're moving along this, that may be part of us, this being an ongoing thing, because I agree that for just 3 months, bam, I think that something in that is going to have to kind of, I don't know, the kids, I guess the kids is a great idea, getting them to go into the families, but Smokey the Bear was always a good guy to me.
I don't know if I can compete with Smokey the Bear.
Hankins.
Can we please have Terrence the trash turtle?
The trash turtle?
Can we deputize all the kids to write tickets?
I have a better one, litter critter. I can't afford the cleaning of my, trash, but my son, every time he comes here from Enid, he said, I can't believe you're not having your trash can cleaned. Well, there are a few other priorities at my house.
Well, that's why he's in town, because he needs to be
but
cleaned.
it is nice, and I figure that truck must have cost $500,000 or so. So but it is a good service if you can afford it.
And I think what we probably can do too is for that ongoing constant marketing piece, you know how we have the neighborhood watch signs, or, you know, just kind of put something up around the city where there's constant, no matter, you know, once we get the mascot, right? That is always something and it becomes a part of our community. So I think that'd be something. But you guys, what you propose is really good.
Very good.
Back to the slide that looks like this. Okay, so first I want to say, because this is my last opportunity to say it, council, this is your last opportunity to talk trash this year. Second, I would like to say, if you're all through, would somebody please make a motion for $22,321.22?
Say, Mayor, this is not including the additional expenses of the calendars and the quotes for these sign companies.
So is it 30,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, well, just one more thing before I make a motion. Could you maybe see if the kids can come up with you know, the whatever we're going to use? Yeah, let them come up with it, and Lita will promote that with you. I promise you. I'll get Lita to help with that. We'll help fund that in some way and give the kids some sort of an award and something that they'll be happy to get. But I'd like to make a motion that we approve this for $30,476.02.
Is there a second? A motion and a second, discussion or debate? Please vote. Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Good job. Item number 23, discuss the funding source for demolition of the burnt nursing home located at 1301 Northwest Andrews Avenue. Oh, I just said 8. Okay, the motion carries 7-0. Okay, now we're on 23. Discuss the funding, wait a minute. Am I on 23? You are. Discuss the funding source for demolition of the burnt nursing home located at 1301 Northwest Andrews Avenue and take action as council directs and deems appropriate.
Good
Yes, ma'am.
afternoon. You get to see me again. So this property was declared dilapidated January 18th of 2022. It has had multiple fires at the property. Due to it being a commercial project or property, we had to have an ESHAP done to do asbestos testing, and it did come back, yes, there is asbestos in it. So the quote from the company is $261,800. And so we need direction on where to find or where to place this in our budget. I believe the recommendation from finance is to use CIP funding.
John.
That's certainly an option. I think emergency funding is on the table as well, if council deems appropriate. Is that right, Jodan?
Yeah, basically there are three options here. You've got the Propel Dilapidated Building Fund. You've got the emergency fund because it is an emergency. It qualifies as an emergency. And as always, the third option is to use departmental funds, but that's pretty much going to wipe them out for the year. They won't be able to do any more than.
What?
Okay, it would if we use their budgeted funds for dilapidated buildings, it would deplete their budget for that purpose. If
And
we
then
have
some.
if it could even cover it at this point.
So we budgeted $270,000 for dilapidateds this year, and we have already encumbered $94,418.
What is the source of that 270,000?
That's CIP.
Okay, that's what you're calling budgeted. Now, what is the D&D fund?
In the Resolution 2259 CIP fund, under beautification, there is a line item that has $3.75 million in it for dilapidated buildings.
Okay, so that's the same place you're getting the 270, right?
I don't think so. I believe it's a
that's-
separate account.
No, that's correct. The Propel CIP funds both the administrative position as well as the operational funds for the dangerous and dilapidated program, and that's budgeted out over a number of years that those funds are available. Not saying that funds won't be available in an amount towards the end of that program, but they are budgeted out of the Propel CIP for them to operate through the year to tear down those homes. That's what
Okay, so the two sources are the CIP, which, by the way, there was some money still in the old CIP before we rolled it into the new one for D&D. We need to check that out. And the emergency vets. Now, I've got a question. There was some talk around here for a while about the possibility of taking the owner to court, and that it would take 4 months and we'd get a lien against them and they have other business here in town. Have we pursued that avenue?
Mayor, we've certainly looked at that, and that's what we've done in the past is we've sued record owners under a theory of nuisance, and we've certainly done that before. But in this case, I would recommend against it because if we sue under a nuisance theory, the only thing that we'll accomplish here is ensuring that property is never sold. And what I mean by that is we'll attach a $270,000 lien for the asbestos abatement, and that lien's going to stay on the property, and nobody is ever going to satisfy that lien because this property at 13th and Andrews isn't worth nearly that. So I think what I would recommend here from a legal standpoint is using one of those pots of money to go after or to pay for the asbestos remediation, and then I can pursue collection efforts after the fact.
Okay, but at one point, there was some discussion that individual owned other property here in town. Can we not attach our lien to that other piece of property that they own?
We weren't able to determine that. What we were able to determine, Mayor, was that the owner had moved the property among LLCs, and those LLCs don't have any assets. So we can sue those corporations, and then we can, and we know who the individuals are, so we can sue them individually as well. But in order to do that, we're going to have to get the court's permission to pierce the corporate veil, which can be done, but it's not the easiest, quickest thing in the world. So this is going to take a while to work through the judicial process if we sue preemptively. But if we remediate first, do collection efforts after the fact, I think that will go faster.
Can we then sue the individual?
We're going to do that. We're going to sue them individually and personally.
Thank you. Mr. Burt.
I think that becomes sticky, but because I know the people that own this, and they have money, and they're going to fight you tooth and nail forever. The thing of it is, I'm embarrassed that they would let this go to this. I mean, it's horrible. But I think we've got to figure out a way to take it down now. It's not fair to the people that live around there to have to deal with that in their front yard. I mean, it's horrible. But there's no telling how much property tax is probably owed on this property as well. If they're not tearing it down, they're probably not doing anything with it. And you're right, they do have 40 different LLCs that they use for different stuff. They own multiple businesses in this city. And so I'm just saying that, they just felt like when it burnt down, they were done. So my suggestion is that we just get the money from somewhere and we tear it down and then we figure out what to do later.
Mr. Harris?
Yeah, this is in my ward, and I get calls every week about it on multiple events. And one of them is that kids go in there and play, and homeless people go in there and sleep, and which is probably how the fire started anyway. Everything's been stripped out of it, and I agree with Jay. It needs to go away. I also know the owners of these corporations and actually do business with them, which is going to make this sticky for me. But we need to do what we can because this is just untenable and that it's gone on this long.
Mayor and council, I would recommend that the manager, in accordance with the emergency fund requirements set forth in the ordinance, petition the council to use emergency funds to abate a public health hazard. And we can bring that back at the very next council meeting to do that, unless the city attorney believes that a verbal on the dais from the manager constitutes the requirement for fulfillment of the request as the ordinance is stated.
I think the council can direct that you use those funds to abate.
I would make that motion.
I don't think you can.
And before a motion's made, I'd also ask that you empower me to pursue collection actions against the owner, against the owners.
I make that motion and that we tear it down immediately, hopefully, and the city attorney takes any action deemed necessary to hopefully get some money back.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to.
Second.
Just to be clear, this is for the
But-
usage of emergency funds.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to use emergency funds and empower the city attorney to seek relief. Is there a second? Mr. Warren seconds. Discussion or debate? Please vote. Seven to zero with one abstention.
And just to be clear, we're using emergency funds.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, I've had a long-standing business arrangement with the previous owners of this facility.
Okay, item number 24, consider accepting a donation of underground fiber optics within Elmer Thomas Park from Hillary Communications in the approximate amount of $40,000. Krista.
Good afternoon. We had a gracious donor, Hillary Communications, step up and offer to provide fiber throughout the park. So that way we could have music all throughout the east side of that park. So you do have a map in front of you that shows the locations included. We ran 4 conduits, 3 for speaker wire so we could have active speakers in the park, and then 1 for future use, which does include fiber. We're not currently using that fiber, but I wanted to have it for expansion and growth in the future. So in the future we can add security cameras, we can add wireless internet, Wi-Fi, things like that. But right now we are using them for speaker wires. The estimated cost for that fiber to be ran underground was roughly $40,000.
Any questions? Since this has to do with Holiday in the Park, how's Holiday in the Park doing?
It's going well. I wish the weather would dry up just a bit. We have had great partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, the community, the volunteers, and the City of Lawton. We were fortunate to be able to have a chamber staff and city staff out there in the evenings, which have helped make sure that our displays are looking good and up to par for every night as people drive through. We're working through the prairie dog issue, which has totaled around $90,000 in damage for those brand new displays.
How many?
Around $90,000 in damage so far that Holiday in the Park has had to work through. We do have a plan for next year though, because when doing research, it looks like prairie dogs don't climb. So all of our custom displays we're gonna build with a footing underneath that elevates them off the ground. So they'll be lifted off the ground so prairie dogs can't climb up and eat them. So it's definitely been a struggle. Our Ferris wheel has been a success. We're definitely not gonna break even on it, but that's not the point for Holiday in the Park. The point is to have something amazing and fun for the community to do. So it has been out there. It's open every Wednesday through Sunday. And then also the skating rink and different things like that. Our community events, our movie nights, and our free events, arts and crafts that are through the Lawton Public Library and other Lawton Community Theater, all of those events are free. People are taking advantage of that, and we're grateful for all of our partners.
Okay, council, if you don't have questions, can we get a motion?
I do have one question.
Okay.
This has already been installed?
Yes, it has. The project's been completed.
Did this go through Parks and Rec, or did it come through the council, or when did it get approved?
So it did not get approved by council throughout the process. A Parks and Rec representative or two Parks and Rec representatives do sit on the Holiday in the Park board, but it did not go through council. That's why we're here today.
Have a motion for approval? So moved. Motion for approval and a second. Discussion or debate?
I would just comment that any of those individuals that were upset with us about controlling the prairie dogs are more than welcome to start a GoFundMe to pay for the damage that they've done.
Please vote. Motion carries 8-0. Item number 25, consider amending previous direction from council and direct staff to offer current schoolhouse lieutenants an annual lease beginning January 1, 2023, instead of the previously recommended 4-month lease. Dwayne.
Mayor and Council, we had a Lakes and Lands Commission, I mentioned at the last council meeting last week, that a suggestion during that meeting was, rather than go with a 4-month extension, to go ahead and just offer a 1-year extension. In light of the fact that our consultant is still working on the Lakes Master Plan, and that's probably not going to be projected to be completed until March, we feel like it's in the best interest of all parties involved to go ahead and do a 1-year extension without any change. That's what we're recommending.
Mr. Warren.
I just wanted to make sure, and I'm pretty sure that I'm understanding, but that is just a 1-year lease, that there is no option to extend after that, correct?
The 1-year extension would allow us this next year to put together a plan, bring back to council, and we'll implement that, whatever you guys.
But there's no extension included in that?
No extension.
Okay.
This is not the store. This
Not the
is
store.
this is the camping and all that.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Fortenbaugh.
A citizen actually made this suggestion, and it looks really good. The staff is scrambling right now to get ready for all these new leases we're going to get in about 2.5 weeks. And we have to wait on the Lakes Master Plan because that might change things. It's going to take a lot of pressure off the staff and off the campers, the people out there on the lease. I'd move to approve this.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
She's second down at the little one.
You said, Ms. Haynes, second. Okay.
Couple of other things that I'd like to throw out there is, because we're doing a 1-year extension, some of those tenants in the past have been allowed to make like quarterly payments. So what we'd like to do is offer them an opportunity to do like a semi-annual. They could pay it over the course of 2
Okay,
payments.
I would say that's administrative. We've got a motion on
Okay.
the floor and a second to approve. Did you want to speak, sir? Come on up. Yes, sir. We need your name and address, please.
My name is Lynn York. I have rented from Schoolhouse Lou for 22 years. Okay, we pay our rent at the first of the year, every year, and have for the entire time. My thoughts are, I know you guys are all business people, and I've actually worked for Stan back in the old Marlowe days. If there's things that municipalities and military people do well, and when they recognize the things that they don't do well and contract those out, they do better, right? I mean, if you go to the civil service, you say, look, we really don't, we're wasting a lot of our resources doing this that, we could probably be using it somewhere else. And we just, they put civil service on that, and they can correct that. And the city of Lawton should do the same thing. This thing should not be the city of Lawton at all. It should be contracted out to someone that says, look, we can manage this business for you, give you this much money off of it, and you won't have to deal with all that. And Stan will tell you, when I worked with, I set up your freezers, or you set up your refrigeration systems in Marlowe when you first started. And I know in those days, you were clocking in 16, 18-hour days every day.
Yeah, well, that's almost as many as being mayor.
Yeah, yeah. But it's not, you're going to have a hard time finding someone who can manage that area out there. And I know a lot of people look at that and say, well, Kent Waller, man, he made zig as a dog. Kent Waller worked his tail off. And there's a lot of people who worked really, really hard out there to make that what it was or what it is. Okay? And I speak for a lot of people saying we want to keep that Lawton. You know, the hard part is, you know, a lot of their master plan says, yeah, we want to increase people from out of state. That's a bad idea. You know, there's obviously nothing to do in Texas. They need to stay down there and do nothing in Texas. Okay? There's a lot of people in Lawton who like to enjoy the lakes, right? There's a lot of people in Lawton who like to enjoy the lakes, and when they'll go out there, oftentimes they can't do anything. Okay? And we want them to have that opportunity. We like having those people around.
All
We
right,
like
well-
having our neighbors and friends with us.
We appreciate you coming. We know you're here because you love Lawton, and we appreciate your ideas and your input, and we'll certainly take note of it. We'll be discussing this for the next 6 months or so before final decisions are made. So thank you for caring enough to come.
Our thoughts are, just the basics of our thoughts are, do what you do, and I've been here through this whole meeting, and I see those things that you do really well, okay? And we want to keep that. You know, if you pick out something that you don't do very well, let somebody else do it.
Okay, thank you for coming. Motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion or debate? Please vote. Motion carries 7-0. Number 26, consider discussing the potential dissolution of the existing lease agreement between the City of Lawton and the Armed Services YMCA, ASYMCA, concerning the property and facility located at 900 Northwest Cash Road, adjacent to Lawton Public Schools Central Middle School, and direct staff to take appropriate action. Dwayne.
That's me too. Just a little bit of history. The property that we're talking about, actually, we acquired in 1951. It has a deed restriction. It can only be used for public purposes. We entered into a lease on that property with Armed Services Y back in 2012, actually in 2013. We've been approached by Lawton Public Schools they expressed an interest. They have some programs that they would like to utilize that facility for. It's come to our attention that the Armed Services Y is no longer utilizing that facility, and they are okay with dissolving the existing lease. We have a couple of different options in front of us as far as council at your discretion. They're interested in either doing a long-term lease with us or potentially even a possible land swap or property swap that could involve the existing deed on this facility as well as that facility. So at this point in time, in order for us to move forward, the first thing we would need to do is to dissolve the existing lease with Armed Services Y and then get direction from council to move forward with negotiations with Lawton Public Schools.
Mr. Warren.
I'd make a motion that we direct staff to move forward with negating that current lease and to enter into discussions with Lawton Public Schools.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, and we have a second. Discussion or debate? Does everybody understand the motion? Please vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item number 27, consider directing staff to research the possibility of implementing an administrative process for declaring structures dilapidated as provided in 11 OS 22-112B.
Mayor, Council, just wanted to bring this to you guys' attention, that there is another way to approach the dangerous and dilapidated process. Oklahoma statutes, Title 11, OS 22-1112B, does allow a governing body to I just lost my train of thought. Delegate, there you go. Delegate that responsibility to a person and/or body if they so choose. So again, there is another way to do that if council chooses to select that process, and it could be an administrative person or administrative body to carry out the processes. But I just wanted the council to have the opportunity to hear the information and decide which way they would like to go, either the way it is or maybe you'd like to make a change. So that's
Mr. Warren.
Council, I really like this idea. To look at it at least. I think once we look at it, it's going to be something that's really workable for us. It would provide the ability for a group or the city manager to handle all of the D&D issues and up until a owner has an issue. If they don't agree with what the city manager says or that group and isn't willing to just accept that, then they would have the ability to bring that to council then. And so basically what it does is it weeds out, when we have 30 D&Ds here and we have 3 people that show up, it basically weeds out all those except possibly the ones that show up. And even those could be satisfied by that original hearing. So I think it's a good idea, and I would make a motion that we direct staff to move forward with putting that together so we could see it.
Okay, so we have a motion to direct the staff to move forward with putting together a plan and seeing if it's possible. A second is made by Mr. Harris. Discussion or debate? Mr. Warren, or excuse me, Mr. Hampton.
Yes, I looked through this, of course, putting together something. I'm not against putting together something so that we can look at it. I do hope that as we're looking at this, that I mean, the point that we start to tear down. I've tore down a lot of properties in my ward, but the point that that really troubles me some is I want to make sure that the citizens are represented, or at least they know that they have somebody that will stand in their corner on that. I've dealing with as many tear downs. There have indeed been people that don't even live in Lawton that I deal with, and then there's people that on the other end that was their mother's house and they don't have the money to deal with it. And you know, we sit up here and we're pretty educated on the processes, but a lot of the people that I deal with, they have no clue what we're doing and what we're doing for them. And I think that as we're looking at this, you know, I can see us having a hybrid when you look at the dilapidated process and looking at the other cities, possibly a hybrid situation. And I do understand that it would be nice not to have to deal with the properties. I mean, there were a major number of properties that I dealt with that no one seemed to even care about. But at the same time, I don't want to lose focus on the fact that, and I'm sure others on this council feel the same way, that I am representing each one of the property owners, no matter what, here in Lawton, and I don't want it to become an administrative process in the future where the council is not even aware of us taking away, basically taking away from their perspective, us taking away their property. So I'm in agreement of taking a look at it, but as we're looking at it, if we can put together some type of hybrid program where we still maintain the fact that people have representation, I think it's important. Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Johnson.
And also, I agree with Councilman Hampton, and also I think we need to make sure that, number one, we're constantly informed if it's in our ward, and number two, that there are also commercial properties that should be, or, you know, different properties aside from the houses that we need to make sure that we're taking care of, because I know sometimes there's a heavy concentration of dilapidated houses that are focused on in one area and not in others. So I think we need to make sure that that process is looking across the city equally.
Mr. Warren?
There was two other, I think, advantages of doing it that way, because I've had citizens actually say to me that they don't feel comfortable coming to a city council meeting to discuss that property. You know, it's intimidating. I can't imagine why, but but some people do find it intimidating. And this really lowers that down to a more of a one-on-one type situation where they're not having to stand before you know, all of us and try to explain something. And the other is that it's not that we don't have to deal with them, but we can move through the ones that aren't important faster, the ones that people don't show up for and they don't care about. We don't have to take that time that we could spend on the three or whatever that do want us to deal with them.
Yeah, I had a question, city manager. I think we had spoke about, and this is an issue, we talk about public nuisance, even some of the buildings that we even talked about today. So in dealing with public nuisances, there are opportunities to streamline the process and get it done quicker than we're doing it now. Is that I'm correct saying that, aren't I, city manager, for some of these properties?
That's correct. It's the emergency. It's an emergency abatement process, which
Right.
presents as this nursing home issue that we discussed, presents an immediate threat to public safety or a concern related to some sort of a threat to public safety. And there's a process that we can go through to do that. And we're working with our neighborhood services and Charlotte right now through those processes. So yes, there's a way to move through that, but it has to present that criteria of an emergency or an immediate public health type threat. Right. So that's one way to do it. As Mr. Hampton, you mentioned, and Ms. Johnson mentioned, this process, if you chose to go that route, which trust me, I got enough to do as it is, but if that's what you wanted to do, that would be fine, or you could delegate it to another body. But what it would allow that body to do is to process those requests for D&D, and then if they do not like that process, much as we do right now with items for abatement, litter abatement and things of that nature, they can appeal that, or already have that process set up through neighborhood services, they can appeal that to the city council. So that ruling of that administrative body would not, quote unquote, be a finality. They would still have the ability to prep that. And much like we do now, we would make sure whoever would do that, that those items will be presented through an email or some sort of distribution system like that to the council members for properties that would be affected in their ward.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And that's and I think that's great that we're moving in a direction to even deal with some of these properties that are really nuisances. But at the same time, as administrative policies go, they can be pretty cold to the constituents, and so I still want to take a look at what we come up with and make sure that we vet it to make sure that citizen representation is still there. Also, I want to point out that we have been a mad terror just tearing through houses and properties in the last year. And the point that I want to make to the council is that as we go on, I mean, I've had like 24, maybe even 30 houses, like Councilman Warren had said, in one meeting. I'm fairly assured that those are going to probably slow down as we move forward because we've taken care of a lot of that cleanup. And so please keep in mind that I think that we've done a good job of cleaning up a lot of the properties. But at the same time, in saying that, I don't think it's going to be as tedious and as many houses as we've had to do as we move on into the future. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, and Mr. Harris was next.
Yes, so looking at the dilapidated process survey that the city manager gave us for other cities, and in Oklahoma City, It says the council approves declaring D&D properties in one motion resolution, provided they don't pull a specific address or make a motion. And if no one comes to speak on their property, council has not shown pictures of the property. So that might be a nice middle of the road approach, Mr. Hampton.
And Mr. Burke?
I just, you know, when I first got here, we didn't have any money to tear a house down. We had to beg for them to tear them down on their own. And we have money through a CIP. That doesn't mean we're always going to have money through CIP. There's going to be other things, hopefully, that we don't have thousands of houses that need to be torn down at one time, right? But, council, I think it's important to make sure that citizens have the ability to come before us, and we make the final decision. It's not an administrative policy. This is a council policy. We decide what goes in the D&D. We've gotten better at putting houses on the D&D because we try to explain to people we're not here to tear your house down. But at the same time, you know, because how many times have we seen a house go on us to say, we're going to wait. Mr. Hampton, you've done it, I've done it in my years, and said, oh, well, that guy came up and he gave a good story, and I'm heartfelt. I feel for these people. I'm like, gosh, it was his grandma's house. He's going to fix it up. Just, okay, we'll give him 90 days. How many of us have done that? Probably most of us. Well, what happens? 90 days goes by and they didn't do anything. And then the neighbor's even madder at me because I let them take 90 more days and then to start all over again for the D&D process. So all I want to say is, you know, man, the system's working. It's working. What we're doing is working. It's been working. And yeah, it's a pain to have to do these, but it's working. So this, thank God I don't have to do anymore, but it's working.
City Attorney.
Mayor, Council, I would just like to state that I agree that it is working. And Councilman Harris, you brought up Oklahoma City earlier and what they do. And I would just add that they've had a lot of issues with their D&D program. They've been sued several times. Mm-hmm. So I've shared my concern with this approach with the city manager offline as well. But I feel like what we're doing is working. It's a little bit cumbersome and it takes some time, but I think it's working.
Mr. Warren.
I just, and I don't have a problem leaving it the way it is. I just think there's a more efficient way to do it for the individuals that want to speak about their property and everything else, because they have to sit here and sit through 20 or 25 other houses when they wouldn't normally have to do that. But beside the point, number one, I will say that I haven't ever authorized that to be done, Mr. Burke. Yeah, I think that's fine if that's what the council decides to do, and I don't have a problem doing it. But then there was also mention about there wouldn't be many more. Well, if I remember right, there's money in the CIP for about 500 houses, and we've done maybe 200 at this point.
And how many have totally been torn down, and how many of them have we had to pay to tear down? Does anybody know that? Can you come up to the microphone? You got to deal with old deaf people here.
We've probably taken close to 200 down since the inception of the CIP funds, something that we didn't have before. Like Councilman Burke had talked about, we didn't have the ability to take houses down. We received money under general funds, and we were required to abate nuisance abatements like grass and junk and debris and take houses down. And there were times where council didn't have a lot to give us. And so we had to decide, did we want to clean up properties or did we want to tear down houses? So we're very grateful that we got the CIP funds. We have taken probably 200 down so far. We haven't gotten a whole lot of money back on that. The CIP funds have paid for it. Not too many places have paid for those as far as property owners reimbursing us. We've had maybe 3 or 4 that I can think of off the top of my head without being prepared for anything like this, that were owned by banks that went ahead and paid for the demolition, reimbursing us basically, and allowing them to go ahead and sell the property and do what they want without having the lien. So we have a number of residential lots out there that have liens on them ranging anywhere from 1,500 to 3,500, averaging liens that if they don't pay those, the county will assess late fees and 1.5% interest monthly. After 3 years, if the money's not been taken care of, the liens aren't paid, then the property goes to county resale. If it goes to county resale, all of our liens fall off. We lose everything at this point in time, the way the system is set up. So we aren't getting reimbursed on CIP money for this, no.
Mayor.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hampton?
Yes, Mayor. I did want to bring up a point. I have done a lot of reading and research on other cities that are dealing with blight. And this is not something that is local to us. I mean, we're trying to deal with our city looking better. I cut my teeth probably on Lita, and I think that it's important for us to realize that there are a lot of other cities that deal with blight. And one of the things that I'm concerned about in Ward 5 is that what do you do with these empty lots? And is there a future in that? And I've looked at different options that other cities have looked at to try to bring to the council as to what we're going to do with the empty lots. During the summertime, these things get overgrown. Trying to enforce people to go out, and then the city having to pay to get these lots cut. And already, as we just heard, they don't even want to pay for the house tore down. So I think some of the issues that we have to deal with in the future, even just tearing down houses like we've been, is what we're going to do with the lots. And there have been some things that I know that some lots and some properties that were sold. But I wanted to bring that up to the council also, that is a deal, something that we will have to deal with. And that's maybe at some point come down with a full blight program as to what we're going to do with all these empty properties that we're tearing down. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Warren?
I just wanted to end this with, or my part of it anyway, with asking the manager if he would. And I don't know how to actually put all that in place because I don't know what all we need to know. But I would like to see a report, an ongoing report of the number of houses that we have actually put on the D&D, how many we tore down, how many they went and pulled permits and tore down themselves, so that we could actually see some kind of matrix of how this is working out.
Ms. Hankins?
I agree. I think we need more information for one thing, because right now we're just looking at the possibility of doing it. We don't have anything to go by right now, because I might want to see a list of the ones in Ward 1, so I could kind of look at those too. I mean, on my own time or whatever. So, but I think, we can't even debate this very much because we don't have anything to go on, enough information.
Did you have something you wanted to say?
Yes, I just wanted to add that we met this morning to discuss the liens on the D&Ds, and we're going to be bringing back a council policy that those liens do not fall off unless they file an appeal or waiver with city council, and then city council would have the ability to say if that lien is going to be dismissed or not.
John?
And I'm going to address something that Terry said about the demo liens falling off and what Charlotte reiterated. Those liens don't fall off. What has happened in the past is that we've just kind of signed them away. When they go to sale, actually statutorily, the county treasurer is supposed to collect those liens. So our demo lien, our mowing liens, all those liens that we place on these dilapidated properties, they're supposed to be collected with the back taxes when the county redeems that at the sale. So I think what has occurred in the past is that was just signed off on by someone here at the city without verification that the lien had been satisfied. So we've identified that issue. That's not going to happen in the future. In fact, we met today, and we're going to let the county know our position on that very soon.
Mr. Burke.
I just want to say that back when I was the vice mayor along with Mayor Fitch, we fought this at the state level, and it went all the way to the Attorney General to talk about us being, our stuff not being paid and falling off, if you will, or not getting paid. And they were basically deaf to our concerns. They could care less. I remember the big argument we had, because on the mayor's convention that we have in Oklahoma City, we all go down there on the floor and we vote for stuff, right? And I remember that was our biggest thing. We lost by a vote, but trying to get that to change. But the Attorney General then was tasked with coming up with a solution, and the solution was he wasn't getting involved in that, and he felt like that just wasn't a thing that, and the city's just part of being part of the city. So, you know, with all that, you know, it's, to me, this is, you guys, thank God we have money to tear them down. That's, I think the biggest argument and the best part of this argument is we're tearing down houses that need to come down, and the citizens are happy about it. And we got to figure out a way to mow them. You're correct. I think Lita come back and talk to council about taking fences down and doing some of that, because the fences are up and the weeds are growing through the fence. And same thing with commercial properties, leaving the old sign up with nothing in it and it finally falling over. And, you know, there's just stuff like that that we have to address as a city. But we're doing a good job. We're doing a good job. And so just keep working for it. Just keep keeping Lawton beautiful.
Okay, Mr. Harris.
I was just wondering if we could at least have a consent agenda on these items, unless somebody shows up to speak about them.
So I think what we're voting on here is for the city manager to bring us back the concepts he recommends. We're not making any decisions other than directing the city manager to bring back some concepts of how and options of how we can move forward. That's all we're voting on today, okay? I want to say one thing before we vote. I really appreciate this matrix we have here, dilapidated process survey of cities attachment, the comments that are there. It was so helpful. Thank you. Please vote. Motion carries 8-0. Item number 28, receive a project update and consider approving plans and specifications for the project EN 2004A, City Hall renovation main building package, and authorizing staff to advertise for bids. Joe Boehnert.
Mayor and Council, we have a brief update on our City Hall project. We're going to brief you on the status, the budget, and then ask you to approve the final plans, and let's go out for bid for the rest of the City Hall renovation. Scott Vaughn is our project manager for the City of Lawton. I'll let Scott take over from here.
Scott.
Good afternoon.
Look good in that I Love Lawton pen, Betty.
My pleasure, sir. In case you didn't notice it, and I'm sure you did, but the first phase of this project that you authorized back in August, the west parking lot is nearly complete. We do have landscaping, irrigation, and I think some lights to put up, but basically we're right on schedule. I'm really happy that that project is to the status that it is, because we've really missed, we've done that before the worst part of the winter season came along. So what we're asking you to do today, and of course, Human Tarabi with MA Plus Architects, Eric Williams and Hillary Peters with CMS Willowbrook, your construction manager at risk, are here to make this presentation. But what we're asking you to do today is authorize them to solicit bids for the next phase, which will be the actual renovations to the building itself. Please note that they'll solicit those bids, develop their proposed guaranteed maximum price, and bring it back to this body for consideration at a later date. Human?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council.
Good afternoon.
Where's the, oh, there it is. Thank you. I was just going to go over briefly over the project and project scope and what we have. As Scott mentioned, the parking lot addition is almost near completion. Should be done by the end of this month, early January, with the addition of approximately about 80 new parking spots and a drive-through lane that will come off, a one-way drive-through lane that will come off from 10th Street, and that is for the future drive-through building. sorry, looks like we're missing a slide. Back to that, the drive-through building itself, it's just a 300 square foot building. It's got brick and cast stone to try to match the City Hall building. Houses about 2 personnel and transaction window for bill pay and whatnot. So the renovations themselves will take place on the 1st to the 4th floor with limited alterations on the 1st and 4th floor. Some finishes on the 1st floor lobby area, and on the 4th floor we're just adding a new air handling unit. The primary bulk of the renovations will take place on the 2nd and the 3rd floor with a lot of new offices, new walls, new finishes, repatching existing plaster, new restrooms in some areas, IT rooms, mechanicals. 3rd floor itself will receive 2 new air handling units as well. And let me go back through that. And there's the 4th floor there, and we'll just be adding another unit there. And then from that, I can hand it over to CMS, and we can go into cost and budget estimate.
Good afternoon. I'm Eric Williams with CMS Willowbrook. Again, once we received the updated drawings from MA Plus, we updated our estimate. Also put in an owner's contingency, which would cover any escalation that would happen from the time of the estimate until we bid, which is proposed to bid later, January 26th. And then that would also include contingency money to use at the city's discretion for any unforeseen conditions found, that's kind of typical to a historic renovation. This estimate also does include the Phase 1 portion, the parking lot and the drive-through lane, and also includes soft costs, design fees, furniture, fixtures, equipment, that sort of thing. Any questions there?
Explain to me again, you probably just did this, the difference between the construction manager contingency and the owner contingency.
So the construction manager's contingency would be done more at the construction manager's discretion. That's to cover things like any gaps in drawings or contradictions between specs and drawings, to cover things like that, possibly accelerated schedule if there was an area that you needed to get done by a certain time that we didn't know about ahead of time. And then the owner's contingency is strictly at the city's discretion to use for if you wanted to do any upgrades, or if there's just things that are found once we uncover floors, ceilings, plumbing, that sort of thing that were not shown in the construction documents that we had no way of knowing ahead of time. Sure.
I'd like to further add that we had a couple of perfect examples of needing both of these contingencies on the parking lot project. When the subcontractor started grading work, the excavation over there, we found a couple of old, perhaps cisterns or manholes or something of that nature that no one could have foreseen. And so it was decided to use that CEM contingency to pay for that additional work. It's a very slight amount. The other example of the owner contingency, which I think again is very important for you folks to have, is we decided we needed to extend the landscaping at that project, the irrigation system more specifically. And so it was chosen to use that, I think, the CEM contingency, because we did not have an owner's contingency on that first package. But the most important point that I'd like to make about those contingencies are, by contract, any savings in those contingencies are your savings. It's not something that CMS Willowbrook or MA Plus or even myself would pocket. It's your money from now until it's not used. It didn't come out very well, but it's your money, period. And if it's not used, it will come right back into your pockets.
Okay, and what you want is for us to approve going out for bids, right?
Yes, we'd like to approve us to go out for bids. You notice that our total budget is more than originally budgeted. I'd like to point out that we have not had any scope creep. All the extra cost in this project, as with many of our other projects, unfortunately, inflation, all the cost on all the projects across all of our engineering projects have gone up.
Okay, so it'll be important for us to address that line item number before we award the bid, but all we're doing is going out for bids.
Correct.
So, because what we have here is the engineer's estimates, right?
Yes.
Okay, do we have a motion for approval?
Mayor, I had a question. It talks about, we talk about phases, and just to kind of make it clear to the constituents, everybody listening, when we talk about phases, there are different phases in this overall project, but this phase is just this building, when it talks about phase.
Well,
Go ahead.
We had really two initial phases. One, we had to get the parking lot done because they need to stage construction to do the rest of the renovation of the building. So we had to get that done first. Now that we have that done, we'll move everybody out of this parking lot over to there. They'll be able to stage there. And then we're gonna work on different floors at different times to get people moved around accordingly. So we'll phase the different floors. We'll work on the whole building at once.
Yeah, but this phase is just for the building that we're talking about.
This is everything else. This is the entire.
So this is the whole rest of the package?
Rest of the project.
Okay.
I would make a motion to accept this update and approve plans and specifications for project EN 2004A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote. Motion carries 8-0. Bringing up staff reports. We need to give these architects and construction managers some I Love Lawton pins, so when they come and talk to us, they're wearing pins. So here,
Mayor, I would propose, because, you know, these things are so expensive, that you put a heavy premium on those Lawton, I Love Lawton pins, recoup some of the cost.
Yeah.
Just a recommendation.
I like that. I like that. Sounds like an administrative matter. With that, we move on. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Burke.
Yep. Mayor, I'm going to have Deputy City Manager Burke here introduce a few new additions to the team before we get to the FISTA project update. It'll be quick, but I think you need to get to know these names because they're new to the team.
So this week, starting Monday, and I guess last week, I neglected to inform the council whenever I was setting in place the manager, but we have a new community services planning director. She's a longtime employee with the city of Lawton. I think she's going to be fabulous at it. She's got a lot of experience. She worked in all the different aspects in that department, and I really think she's going to bring exactly what you are looking for to that position, and that's Ms. Charlotte Brown. And I'd like to call her up here and appreciate her promotion to that position. It's very well deserved.
Speech.
It will be very short, because I know you guys still have a lot to get through. I appreciate the opportunity to work as a director and work with the different departments that I've worked in my 14 years now with the city, working closer with the city manager's office, and just moving forward with great customer service and finding that way to say yes and that we're open for business. So, but I would also like to introduce Ray Howard took my spot in license and permits as the chief building official. He worked for us before as an electrical building inspector and then went to the state. And so we've enticed him to come back and help us out with this.
Thank you, Charlotte. Mr. Mayor, honorable members of this council, I'm pleased to go back to work for the city of Lawton. As Charlotte mentioned, I was employed here as an electrical inspector, worked with Doug Wellhouse, who occupied the office where I now sit. And for those of you who may not realize it, that office is geographically located at the intersection of the laws of physics and the laws of man. We are there to set up the minimum safety requirements and the least we can do to restrict and make sure that we're safe. And the rest, we need to make sure that we're open for business, and we'll work with everyone that we can. Hopefully, we can streamline some things and make things work better. So with your help, we serve at your pleasure. Thank you.
Key words, open for business. I like it. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
Mayor, I do have one more announcement. We would like to thank Terry for serving as our interim neighborhood services supervisor, but we have hired someone, and he started yesterday. Jonathan Jernigan is taking over as the neighborhood services supervisor.
Okay, John.
And he is going to need a pen.
He needs a pen. He needs a pen.
How in the world? This ought to be part of signing on, hadn't it? Maybe we find the city manager when somebody doesn't wear a pen. What do you think of that?
I paid, Mayor, but I will requisition some of those from you so we can make sure we get them.
Let me make sure you got yours on. Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Mayor and council, I want to say thank you for this opportunity, and I'm ready to get to work and keep Lawton beautiful. Been a Lawton all my life, and I'm ready for the opportunity.
I love it. Keep Lawton beautiful, and also let's appreciate him and also Terry for the work she's doing.
So Mayor, before we get James up here, I had a conversation with a number of staff members, and I hate to quote a TV show, but I thought it was appropriate, right? Business does not work like government. Business moves faster than government, and when it has to wait too long, it's too expensive, the businesses move on. And that was the conversation I've had with Ray, and I've had with Charlotte, and I've had with Dwayne. So to state that we are understanding that business moves at a different rate than government, we do. But we got to find that sweet spot in there where we can all work together and get those things through the process as fast as possible, as safely as possible. So with that, James, are you ready?
So first of all, I want to say I love what I'm hearing. Thank you very much. FISTA update, James Taylor, Captain James Taylor, retired, Comanche County Product.
United States Navy, yes, sir.
All right.
Here to report. There you go. All right, Army guy. Love it. Thank you all very much for the opportunity. Yeah, my voice here, I guess I've been talking too much. But, wow. Look what's happened. Look what's happening. Look forward here in the near term of reporting other things. One thing I'm going to emphasize is that we need to schedule an executive session with the chair and the vice chair to meet with you all at the next meeting to update you on some stuff that's coming. All very positive updates for you. To that, I'll begin with the process here.
You want that on the agenda for the 10th? Or
Yes.
do you know already?
No, that would be wise, because that, in my discussion with both the chair and the vice chair, they encouraged me to share with you that, yes, we need to do that at the next one.
Okay,
Because
thank
of
you.
what we've got coming.
Thank you.
Very much so. I'll tease a little bit about that. So yeah, great things continue to come to the FISTA, the Lawton Fort Sill and the FISTA Innovation Park. With that, as you see, we continue with regards to the tenants, and the intent was for them in signing a BIC agreement with no rent in that center, is that the intent was for them to sign a long-term agreement to be transferring into the FISTA. So that's in fact is what is happening, and that's in fact is what is coming forward now. FISTA 1, again, negotiating these long-term contracts. I'm in the final stages with many of those, and I will share with you that one of the greatest challenges for them was monies coming from the National Defense Authorization Act, which has taken a long time to get through the process, and that's delayed a lot of the funding for them to be accountable for the projects that they're bringing here to the FISTA. But that's coming forward now, and agreements are moving forward. So with that, we've got 8 defense contractors that I've been working with, but I'll share with you that now I have 3 defense contractors more than I have available space. So with that, I'm having to be creative in finding ways to be able to get them into the FISTA. And that's what we're working through right now. So that's a good challenge to have. The academic institutions are moving forward. They have contracts they're working with right now pertaining to their place in the FISTA. Now, that does not account for Cameron. They're working in support to the STEM side with regards to contribution for that. And as I mentioned to you previously, they got an NSF grant for fiber through Dobson that would be made available for use in the STEM lab. So, construction update, completion of Vista 1, Phase 1. We're now doing the punch list. We're finishing through that and do the final tweaks to have that completed in order to move in tenants into the Vista. With that, the Vista sign, I don't know how many of you have had a chance to see that, but it's even greater to see it at night when it's lit up and to see those colors popping forward. The intent right now is in that space where the two electronic billboards would go, is to put up banners there that indicate who's in there, programs that are coming, have a QR code that's up there to integrate with the local youth. So they go up and click on that QR code and then get information, activities and things that they can participate with pertaining to the Vista. The high security fence is in place. Now we're finishing that up to be able to use the primary entry point for it once we finish the punch code. We have a punch list. We have ongoing meetings with Fort Sill organizations. The expectation is with the defense contractors coming in is that they have organizations they work directly with at Fort Sill. And to that same is the opportunity to do integrative discussions, to do industry day, to do events that would include them within the Vista. So that within the conference center itself is the opportunity to bring them in and to have those integrative meetings, which is the intent of the Vista to begin with. So with that, I need a comment here to commend the city's attention to and support for inspections and permitting. Is that, I know that's always a challenge in many ways, but since we began early on in bringing in representatives from the city to meet with the different construction trades that were in the Vista to be able to discuss with them the high-tech, the technology, the requirements, the opportunities for this, and in collaboration with them to have those discussions as we were building out was truly beneficial. And that helped them out. So I commend the city and the efforts from the city in order to bring them in. City manager, thank you very much in your help in directing that and supporting to the same, because that's helped us move things along. Again, upcoming dates, Army Future Commands and CFTs, meetings ongoing. With that, I do expect an opportunity to go back to Austin to be engaged with Army Futures Command, as we will with other opportunities as well. Congressional industry visits, coordinating with those organizations in DC as well as their field representatives here, keeping them updated, providing to them information on the progress of the build-out and the tenants that are coming in. Fort Sill leaders having leadership come through facility and see what's there further provides that as a socialization of our efforts and our process. Completion of Phase 1 with the Vista, as I mentioned to you, executive session, so we talk about what's next and what's coming in behind that, which needs to be discussed with you. Tenants move into the Vista 1, so working completion of that with the punch list now, and then immediately start moving folks in. We're looking right now as the ribbon cutting to be the 19th of January. That's a Thursday. So that's our goal, is to have a ribbon cutting on the 19th of January. Probably have an event the evening before because of the fact that for some folks traveling here, it'd be worthwhile to have something the evening before so that we can do that, and probably, I would say, in the afternoon of the 19th, probably somewhere around 2 o'clock or something near that. So you see on the slide that we have here recent visits. The group on the left is the Oklahoma Defense Industry Association board members that came and toured not just Fort Sill, but toured the Vista. These are executive director, representative of tribes, representative of defense industry, representatives of transportation, representatives of different organizations across the state of Oklahoma that are very focused on the defense industry. They truly enjoyed their visit here, as well as taking them to Fort Sill, so they had a chance to be able to get the brief from Fort Sill and understand what that is. This week has been MIFIX, which is really the test bed for many of the programs and opportunities of new technology that's coming forward relevant to the Vista, relevant to Fort Sill. So they were on post this week and seeing some of those new technologies. To the right of that is the group of representatives from the governor's staff from the governor's cabinet, Secretary Pollard, Innovation and Technology, Science and Innovation, Secretary Nash, Secretary for Veterans and Military Affairs. With that, Senator Hast, Chair of Aeronautics and Transportation. They came and toured that. In turn, the representatives from the board then went to them and met them in Oklahoma City and talked about that, because they in fact said, because of what's going on here, they have money now in order to support growth opportunities for the FISTA itself, and working to the same. Recently, you probably saw in the press where we had Dr. Gary Butler, who is the president and CEO of CAMGen, which is based out of Starkville, Mississippi. With that, their focus on artificial intelligence, machine learning, and what they have done with the technology that they have, particularly in the realm of counter-UAS, is notable. Technology that they have developed has been used at the last 2 Super Bowls to be able to protect the facilities there from concerns along those lines. So you see with him in the newspaper, the great coverage we provided from that. In the center top, that is the board from young professionals of Lawton, where they had the opportunity to engage with them, because that's the future of Lawton. And sitting down with these folks to have dinner and talk about the importance of high-tech jobs and what that is to KSWO online. And I mean, he nailed it, and talk about future growth. Upper right would be the executive club that meets regularly to talk about the past, moving to the future. And lower right was AUSA in support to what we're doing with the Department of Commerce and building out next year to bring in greater opportunities, and meeting with defense contractors in Washington, D.C., and also to that end. The STEM Consortium, what's being done now in developing opportunities for and working with the National Math and Science Initiative with the universities and so on, I've talked about before. Over to the right, you see that recently we had the Lawton FPV first-person view invitational of having our drone races. We had about 50 people in attendance. We have 12 professional drone racers from Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas that participated. It was a great venue, but at the same time, we had in the mall, in Center Court, we had OSU there doing a drone workshop that had a myriad of activities and opportunities for kids, for adults, for families. Plus, Great Plains had a setup where they actually had drone operations where people could go and fly drones. So we'll continue to do that, and right now, the next plan for the next drone race will be in March. Also, the leadership for the FISTA board has brought our president and CEO of the chamber on board as a consultant for and support to and working some of the programs, because one person alone can't do all this, and working to that end, finding greater means and opportunities in order to develop part of the future programs that we have coming forward. The STEM Lab, again, working to that and what's being done in support to the same, and truly great interest in doing that. Discussion, I had 3 defense contractors in today, and talking to the STEM aspect of that, they lit up and said, yeah, we're going to be a part of that as well. So it was great opportunities for us to the same. That's my presentation, pending any questions that you may have. That's all I have for today, and thank you for your continued support.
Did I miss the part about $20 million and what that's for?
I talked about that previously, but that is ongoing, and that's part of what Krista Ratliff is working with right now, and through the Department of, through OCAST, in coordinating with them, because the state identified OCAST as the primary organization that will support us in the handling of those monies and how those monies will be distributed, the scheduling associated with that, the requirements for the application, the management of the application, and then moving that effort forward. So that's something that's really big.
can the community be assured that you're moving forward with a sense of urgency on the anechoic chamber complex, the makerspace, and the incubator that the money was for?
Yes is the short answer. We're doing the research necessary to understand, first and foremost, the appropriate process in the monies and how we have to apply for that and to receive those, and the scheduling associated with the same. I use the reference to the HUD monies, the $1 million that we got through Congressman Tom Cole, and working with HUD in doing that, and the application process necessary, the environmental reports and all, and working with those federal funds in support to the same. Working with the city manager's office with regards to funding that comes through the city, what's necessary to that end, and support to it. Relevant to the $20 million, again, that's something that Ms. Ratliff is working on and working to that. We're also doing research and reaching out to the defense contractors and the academic institutions, determining from them what type of an anechoic chamber needs to be included within the anechoic chamber complex. And I continue to receive updates also from others as far as what we need to do. And in fact, I found out today that one defense contractor would also very much be interested in a wind tunnel. So that's something you and I talked about before. But again, balancing that out so that we get something that will maximize the effect for the dollar spent to bring in the type of facility that we need here, relevant to the defense contractors that are coming in, the projects that are going on in Fort Sill, tying that with the joint counter UAS university that's going to be stood up. So we create this ecosystem of financial support, construction that's going to be beneficial for us, and then moving that effort forward so that we're able to find something that's going to have a greater value over time.
Mr. Burke.
Well, James, I think this all started out as a dream when we
Yes,
first
sir.
started. This is my last meeting to ever be a part of the FISTA Trust, and I just wanted you to know that you're doing a great job. I really respect all the trustees and the chairman, and from water leaks to everything we went through when we first purchased the mall, and people thought we were crazy. Until now, people are actually asking me, when are we going to repaint the rest of the mall that beautiful color that we painted the other end? So that kind of gets you excited, right? But whoever takes my place on the FISTA Trust that sits on this council, it is an honor, because this is going to change our city forever. This is going to change us forever, and you've been a big part of that. A lot of people, this council, staff, we've all worked so very hard, and we couldn't have done it without all of us working together, and many sleepless nights, I will say. But I'm proud of it. Just keep going.
Oh, yeah.
Keep going. Keep doing the dream that we had in the beginning. Keep that going, and I think we're going to be fine. Lawton's looking very, very bright.
Well, and thank you very much for saying that, but you recall that initial concept and idea, that floor plan that we talked about to go into Sears. And the idea was in trying to understand conceptually what type of technology needs to go in there, what it needs to look like. And if we see first and foremost what we thought was the idea, it's like creating a mental map. You know, what you perceive, what you think with that, but yet when doing the research, which we've done, and the involvement in establishing a board and the support from the city council has only created exponentially greater success for this. And through doing and coordination with our elected officials, through the industry, through the defense community and the like, is ever expanding. We have to keep this going. We have to keep this moving forward. So I challenge you, but please understand that last week was the first opportunity I had to have a representative from the federal agency that does the certification for this. The terminology that we've been using, or some of this, John, you understand this, being from active duty here, is that we have to be very careful about how we represent things within the building itself, because that's going to be a classified industrial secure building. This is not a commercial project. And in so doing, we have to protect ourselves, because part of the executive session is to bring in agencies and brief you all about the threat assessment. What is that about? What do we've got to do to provide information to the community, see something, say something? All of this is part of it and how it brings greater attention to this community for the benefit of the greater good. So all that is applicable with that. Thank you, each and every one of you, and all the best.
Thank you. Okay. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Now it's time for a motion.
I'll make a motion, but, or I'd let Mr. Burke make the motion, but I just was wanting to ask if you would, I'd be very happy to be considered as Mr. Burke's replacement on that board.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Warren. And do we have a motion?
I make the motion, we go to executive session?
And do we have a second?
Thank God I never have to motion.
Did I hear a second? I did hear a second. Please call the roll.
Chapman. Burke.
Yes.
Hampton. Fortenbaugh. Johnson. Warren. Hankins. Harris.
Where at? Down here? Down here. Okay. With her name? Yes. Yeah, that's it. Okay. When you're up here and something comes up, we'll announce that. Okay.
No, I'm not going to.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, James.
I'm doing great, sir. They're all here right now. I don't know. Hopefully everybody will come. I don't know. My people. We'll come back to executive session. Still in Thank you.
Oh, right here.
I tried to shove hers in there next to John's, but it just didn't work. She would like one with another. Okay. Yeah, you can put that in your backpack. Unless you want it for the mayor picture too. She does. I got her one. Oh, there we go. That'll work. I'll show you how to get out.
See, I have to just express myself so when I get here, I'm okay. I'm sorry you had to hear it. Thank you for listening. No worries. I think depending on the situation, you and I are the voice of reason when you're doing something. Yes.
She goes, Daddy, I sent you this picture because this is the first day you were sworn in.
You know, we probably ought to, as soon as we're back from executive session, please call the roll.
Burke. Hampton. Fortenbaugh. Johnson. Warren. Hankins. Harris. Chapman.
Item number 29, John.
Pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25 Oklahoma Statutes, council convened an executive session to discuss the pending action in Oklahoma County District Court titled State of Oklahoma X-Rail, the Department of Transportation versus Gills Waste Oil, LLC, Virgil Brooks and Scottsdale Insurance Company, and Gills Waste Oil, LLC versus the City of Lawton. I understand there is no action on this agenda item.
Item number 30, John.
Pursuant to Section 307B3, Title 25 Oklahoma Statutes, council convened an executive session to discuss the purchase of real property located at 911 Southwest C Avenue. I understand there is a motion on this agenda item.
I move to authorize the city attorney to enter into negotiations with the property owner to purchase the property located at 911 Southwest C Avenue.
A motion and a second, please vote. Are we missing? Oh, there it is. 8-0, motion passes. Is there a motion for adjournment?
Move to adjourn.
Motion and a speedy second. Please call the roll.
Hampton. Fortenbaugh. Johnson. Warren. Hankins. Harris. Chapman. Burke.
No, you said speed. He said speed.
So, council, I believe Caitlin wants to get a picture with all the council members. It's Councilmember Burke's last meeting, so Caitlin, where do you want them? Right in front. If council wouldn't mind stepping down.